Good evening. Good. I see it. I messed that up. Good evening, everybody. Welcome into the Outer Rhythm Studios. I'm Jamie. That's Eli, and we are here. We're here.
Yeah. Hey, man. Yeah. Wednesday night dynamite. It's all right. Whatever else rhymes with that. Welcome in. Out of Rhythms, college football, like you were saying. Uh, yeah. I got a full slate tonight. I got Jaylen Wright from Tennessee. Be hitting him up, and maybe dropping a few bombs along the way. And if you haven't done this, stream here we're doing. Like where else are we at?
Well, hey, if you guys haven't, we actually got Spotify, Apple, and Google Play for most of our audio sides. So on our audio side over there, and then we have our Discord. We got a nice, lovely little Discord in there. Football, some college football as well. If you want to go over and check that out, and we got some prospect stuff in there too for as far as drafts and just as far as conversational stuff. The link is in the description below right now. So if you want to jump over there and talk Jaylen Wright, talk Blake Corum, or some wide receivers or tight ends. I mean, Dallin Holker. We have Dallin Holker on our playlist here on YouTube as well. So I mean, if you want to check him out, you sure may as well. Um, but that's good majority of everything. So go over there and give us a follow on all those audio platforms if you guys haven't. But yeah, our latest is Cody Schrader is our last previous one. If you guys haven't catched our live stream last Wednesday, we actually covered Cody Schrader. So that's out now. So go over there and give a list or watch, listen, and all that good stuff over there as well. For some odd reason, I can't even talk tonight.
Yeah, Jay's got all the playlists over on YouTube. All the well, I can help you with that. I got something you might need here. What? Whoops. Don't want to pull that bad boy out in public. But yeah, like Jay was saying, we got a playlist over on YouTube. We have all the guys. Hell, the combine's going on this weekend, and I put it in the scroll at the bottom. A lot of the guys that we've covered, a lot of the running backs are going to be at the combine. Braylon Allen, Bucky Irving, Audric Estime. I mean, all the big heavy hitters are going to be there. And you know what? It'll be nice to do somebody, post combine, because I think probably sometime next week we'll do Ray Davis, the stud running back from Kentucky. So we'll see what Ray does at the combine and then comment from there. Because a lot of these we've been doing beforehand, like during the college season. We started back in September doing these spotlights up until now. So we'll see what Ray Davis does at the combine and then go from there. But tonight,
yeah, for sure.
That's why you're here. Because you know what? Well, obviously, you want to see the two of us, which I get. I mean, he's sexy. I'm warm in my own right.
Just call me
Jaylen Wright.
Just call me
always right. You know what? Did he kind of come out of nowhere? I know Tennessee. Roast beef. Yeah, no comment. Oh. Is that a ghost you got there? What flavor is that?
Phase Pop, baby. Not a sponsor.
No. Yeah, put it up there. Phase Pop. Oh, it looks delicious. Yeah, no. Maybe someday. You gotta help us get there. Go like, subscribe, help us get there. But Jaylen Wright, he kind of, there was a couple studs on that 2022 Tennessee team. Obviously, they went 11-2. We're in the SEC championship game. Just a monster season. They were up in the top 10 all year. Obviously, Joe Milton, Hendon Hooker, third round pick of the Lions. The two receivers, Tillman and Hyatt. So there's a lot of studs on that 2022 Tennessee team. This past year, they kind of came back down to earth a little bit. But the one standout they did have was this guy right here, Jaylen Wright. And I'll kind of go over his stats here. So in the 2022 year, he had looks like a little under 900 yards, but did have 10 touchdowns. Like I said, monster, sophomore season, and much was to be expected coming into this year, and he delivered for the most part. Had over 1,000 yards, almost 7.5 yards a carry. I mean, that's monstrous. You know what I mean? That even at the collegiate level, I mean, that's ridiculous. Only had 4 touchdowns, so kind of came down there. 22 grabs for a little under 200 yards through the air. Excuse me. You know what? I need an LA night. Yeah. Give it to me. Yeah. Good evening. Hey. Jay queued it up. Yep. But we're waiting on that. He didn't. My man, LA Knight, didn't win the Elimination Chamber.
That's sad.
But he should. Yep. What's up? We're doing pretty good, man. It's Wednesday night. We're streaming. We're talking college spotlight. Hope you enjoy the show here. So I went over his stats from the past 2 years. Don't really need to go over his freshman stuff. I mean, he was at Tennessee all 3 years. Draft Buzz has him as the 163rd ranked prospect, number 13 running back. PFF and NFL.com have him way higher. I know NFL.com has him, I think, number 52 overall. And PFF is somewhere in the 70s. So, second, third round, some kind of day two-ish in there. Draft Buzz has about a 5th round grade on him. So it'll be interesting to see. And like I said, the combine's finally here. So, Jaylen Wright will be there. So we'll see what kind of numbers he puts up. 5'11", 210. And now 210 it might be generous. A lot of places have him listed at 200. So, but that's prototypical running back size. It really is. And some people say, oh, he's got a lean frame and whatnot. He can't put on he's not going to be a 225, 230 monster like AJ Dillon or, a guy like that. Or in this draft, Braylon Allen, not ever going to be like a guy like that, but the guy runs a 4.3. I mean, which is for a running back, that's ridiculous speed. And we saw another guy who ran something similar last year tear up the league, when he was healthy, Devon A-Chain from the Dolphins. So I like my running backs to have a little speed. Speedy, runs hard. And some of the negatives on him, like with a lot of these guys, I mean, it's almost like it's almost like clockwork. Like obviously pass blocking. I think almost every college running back needs to work on that. Not a power back, not like a goal line guy. So you're not gonna get, you're not gonna have a Jamal Williams, Gus Edwards kind of year where he gets a bunch, he gets 15 cheap touchdowns or something, where he has 600 yards or 800 yards rushing, but has 13, 15 touchdowns. He's not going to be that kind of guy. The comp range I have on him, Ty Chandler probably his floor. I don't think he's going to be a bust. I don't think he's going to be out of the league in a couple years. So I think Ty Chandler, who's a, kind of an, average NFL running back, spot starter, kind of like he was with the Vikings this past year. I think that's his floor, where Jaylen Wright would be at. And obviously his ceiling would be Breece Hall. I mean, just his running style, his size, 40 time. I combine a bunch of different things. Obviously Breece had more, bigger seasons at Iowa State when he was in college, and we've seen what he's done with the Jets so far. So, I mean, that's pretty lofty goals. I mean, Breece Hall, to me, when he's healthy, is a top 5 running back. So, I mean, that's a ways up there. I think more realistic, and I didn't include it there, but I'd say a middle ground on Jaylen Wright would be Isaiah Pacheco from the Chiefs. He reminds me of him. He runs hard like him, similar size. He could fall to, who knows? I mean, there's so many players at so many positions. Just because he's graded, as the whatever NFL.com 52nd player or Draft Buzz 163rd player, he could end up in the 6th, 7th round. We just don't know. I mean, there's such a variance with running backs. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what becomes of Jaylen Wright over the next couple months. But those are just my initial impressions. Like I said, I love the burst, And Jay's going to elaborate. Jay kind of has a different perspective. He brings usually stats and his own perspective to it. But those are just my initial, just the eye test. I see a lot of Isaiah Pacheco, which is nothing wrong with that. A nice middle ground is an NFL starter. I mean,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
because
for
he's not
sure.
a Pro Bowl, All Pro level, 10-year, 8-year guy doesn't. You know, Isaiah, yeah, Isaiah Pacheco, the guy obviously fumbled in the Super Bowl, but he just won just won 2 consecutive Super Bowls with the Chiefs as the feature back, pretty much. At least this year he was. I mean, he was the unquestioned feature back. So that's my thoughts. I'll see what Jamie's got to say.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I have a couple different comps to him too as well. I mean, Brees Hall, I mean, I think he did a little bit better in college far as like the receiving game when it came to it. And I was looking at Jaylen Wright's kind of he didn't, the funny thing is he didn't have like a lot of like receiving stuff in the with with Tennessee. So I didn't look like he had, he was involved, but not a lot. But maybe that could change in NFL. And I was just kind of thinking, could he maybe be, a kind of one of those dual threat kind of running back? Can he have 400, 500 yards in a receiving game, but yet put up the same stats at the same time?
Yeah, man, that'd be another knock is wasn't involved a lot in the passing game, but a lot of these running backs, I think you could almost like, unless it's a rare case or something, or it's a Bijan from last year, just a kind of a generational top 10 kind of pick running back. A lot of these guys, it's a lot of it's pass blocking, and then a lot of it is the passing game because they don't involve these running backs as much as they do in the NFL, obviously. So just because he only caught 22 balls last year doesn't mean that he can't. If he ends up in a similar offense, like a Shanahan offense or Andy Reid, if they want kind of insurance for Pacheco, if they get rid of Clyde and Jerick McKinnon, those kind of guys, if they want to get some insurance for Isaiah, like he could go in and catch 400 yards, like you were saying. I think that's totally doable. Just because they didn't in college doesn't mean that they can't. And then he becomes a dual threat. Then he's a guy like Isaiah who can get you 800, 800, 900 rushing yards and 400 through the air. And then, you get 1,300 all-purpose yards from a guy like this. I mean, that's a hell of a year.
Yeah, it is for sure.
For first year or two in the pros if he gets opportunities.
Yeah, that'll be given. I was, looking back too, and
And
yeah, there.
so I started this last week. Oh, go ahead, Jay.
Well, I was just gonna say is that, I was just, you were talking about, running backs that kind of get involved in the receiving game and whatnot. Like, Alvin Kamara was a prime example of this when he was with Tennessee. He didn't really have like a lot of, rushing yards, a lot of receiving yards as well, too. He had a little bit in that, with Tennessee, but then all of a sudden when he got drafted, I mean, he went off the wall in the receiving game. So I mean, he had a lot, pretty much rookie season to now. I mean, he pretty much evolved into a dual threat running back, which we wouldn't have maybe expected that to happen.
And yeah, he would have been, if you look at it. Okay, I love the 10 touchdowns for 2022, but if you look at the rushing yards, and then you look at the kind of the team around him, that it's not that impressive. I mean, it's not that impressive. You're looking at guys typically that are 14 touchdowns, 1,500 yards. Guys that just like their numbers just pop off the screen in college. And Jaylen Wright wasn't one of those guys, but from what I was reading and obviously what we saw on the field, like he evolved. Like he put on some weight. Like the guy's always had speed, but add a little bulk there. So in between 2022 2023, added some weight. Looked like he wanted to be more involved in the passing game. Like I said, he only caught 2 passes in 2022. Like he was not involved out of the, catching balls out of the backfield at all. So, I mean, that improved 20 catches, probably put on 10, 15 pounds. So, I mean, yeah, I think this guy's got a hunger and I think he wants it. And those are good traits. And his running style, I forgot to mention too, his running style doesn't lead him to being hurt. You know what I mean? A lot of guys, a lot of these running backs get banged up. He didn't take a lot of carries in college, which I think is a good thing. I mean, he preserved himself. He steps in, you know, maybe mid-season, year two, he's a feature running back. So, and then he's ready to hit the ground running and go from there. I was going to mention, so I started this last week with who I think like their 5 landing spots could be, and I did this. I kind of did it for, I kind of did it for Ricky. Went more in depth with it with Cody Schrader, obviously, and Jaylen Wright. I'm gonna do the same thing, and then I'll have Jay comment per team, just his thoughts if he has any. Number one, you know what, the Bears. I have the Bears at number one for Jalen's services. I'm not impressed by any of their backs. Khalil Herbert, eh. Roshan Johnson, I know it was just 1 year, but eh. Foreman, I don't even think he's going to be on the team. Like, you just kind of go down their depth chart. I'm not impressed by anybody really. So that be a place he could compete. Especially if they're gonna, they go get Caleb Williams in the draft. They have 2 top 10 picks, obviously. So I don't know. You have any thoughts on the Bears?
I mean, the Bears need something. I mean, they have a couple of guys here. They have Herbert, who he's only been there for 3 years, but only if he can stay healthy. We got Roshan Johnson, who isn't bad. We've seen a little bit from him as well, but they really need a home run hitter, and I could see him fitting in this offense pretty well. I mean, he's kind of got some of that run through the tackle skills, and a little bit in the receiving game too as well. So that might help boost the Bears offense as well.
Yeah, and a lot of those passes out of the backfield were going to Roshan. Last year, that was pretty much his role. He wasn't doing a lot of rushing, but catching those balls. So maybe you get a better version of that in Jaylen Wright, and it comes in. Ooh, Josh Hawkins. What do we got here? Jaylen was in a committee in college, which is a pro and con because he has a lot of tread on his tires. Yeah, I agree, man. We were just mentioning that a few minutes ago. Like he didn't take a lot of didn't take a lot of hits. A lot of those Alabama backs, we all remember those, Eddie Lacy from back in the day, and for years, and until Derrick Henry popped, and then Najee's had a pretty good career, but a lot of those backs, those Alabama backs that got to the pros, and they were shot almost. Trent Richardson and Eddie Lacy, because they just took a beating. They have 300 carries per year in college. So I don't
Yeah,
mind
that's
a guy coming in with 100 something carries for 2, and then his freshman year he was barely used at all. So I mean, he's fresh. I mean, if you combine all his carries together, it's like one equivalent season to a traditional Alabama back. You know what I mean? So yeah, I agree with you, Josh. I mean, that's great analysis. If you have any thought, yeah, and if any of you guys that are watching the stream, if you have any thoughts on any of these teams, go ahead and clear. Yeah, so Jay got his thoughts on the Bears. I'll go to my second team, and they are in order. I think the Bears would be the best spot. I think he can compete there, and I like how they're building their offense. I think they need one more receiving weapon. They'll have a legitimate quarterback now. Number 2, Raiders. Josh Jacobs, I don't think they're going to bring him back. I really do. And I think he was a problem child last year. We all saw what he did in 2022. He probably arguably the best running back in the league. But I think there's attitude problems there, and the price tag, he wants 14, 15 million. He ain't going to get that. So I think the Raiders are going to move on from Josh Jacobs. Zamir White is solid. I only saw 1 year of him, and he was a late round pick. So that's another place where and so I put them at 2. And who wouldn't want to live in Vegas? You know what I mean? No state income tax. You're right. You're in the midst of everything. You have any thoughts on the Raiders?
Yeah, from the sounds of it, that Josh Jacob might be gone. I don't think they want to pay this guy. And then Zamir White. he's not a bad running back. I mean, we've seen, some flashes of what he can and can't do. Um, but yeah, he could this could be just a two-headed monster really if it came down to it, with you know, what Wright trying to kinda get his feet underneath him with the offense and whatnot. So maybe, more middle, end of the season, Wright maybe takes over and becomes the guy down there.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. And yeah, Zamir White, like a lot of these guys, Ty Chandler, who I had as one of the comps, from an earlier graphic. Like a lot of these guys, they're good fill-in guys, but they're not. This isn't Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, Brees Hall when he's healthy. There's just certain elite guy. Now I think Jahmyr Gibbs is in that category. There's certain guys that are going to be like, yeah, they're not getting replaced. Like they're going to be your Bijan in Atlanta. There's certain guys they're going to be feature. All these teams have carries to be had to be won in training camp, preseason. So that's why I'll go with the Raiders at 2. Number 3, Titans. Obvious choice. I think he's from the Durham, Raleigh area. I think he's from North Carolina. North Carolina is right by Tennessee. He went to college at Tennessee. So, kind of almost staying at home. I know Knoxville's across the state from Nashville, but almost staying at home there. Derrick Henry, with these, because free agency hasn't, opened up yet, but we know Derrick Henry's gone. He's not coming back. He might end up a Cowboy. He might, a contending team that needs a big bruising back. That's where I would see Derrick Henry. I don't see him with the Titans. Tajay Spears, another guy. We've seen a few flashes his first, rookie year, and you and I both like him, but that's another place where he can compete and win. There's no like, oh, Tajay is going to be our feature guy the next, 3-4 years. There's nothing's been said about that. So I think, Tennessee, he could go in and compete. And a couple of their other guy, is it Haskins or Hoskins?
Yeah,
Hassan. Yeah, I'm trying to think of their like third running back. He's kind of he's kind of blah. He's borderline being cut. So I don't see much in him.
Yeah, Haskins. Yeah, he's injured. That Julius Chestnut, he's injured. They have a Jonathan Ward, who's actually like fourth year. So and then with Spears being the rookie, kind of had more of that what they wanted in with this offense. With Derrick Henry gone. I just would be another two-headed monster for a little while, and then until Wright actually kind of gets his feet underneath him, he could be the lead guy there and toss in a little Tajay Spears. So this wouldn't be a bad fit for the Titans. Him staying right in state and being with the Titans, I wouldn't mind that at all. I would draft him too.
Hey, it keeps, either goes with number 20 or 0 like you had in college. Those he pops, man, in a couple years. Those jerseys, those Tennessee people are rabid. And they are. They love that team. They love the college team. They'd be flying off the shelf. This guy popped, and the Titans ended up taking him. Number 4, Green Bay Packers. I had them in the same spot last week with Cody Schrader. Different running back, but same idea. This guy, he's kind of got the same, a little bit, a little bit taller, but similar build to Aaron Jones, who's obviously the stud existing back with Green Bay. But like we mentioned last week, Aaron Jones going into his 8th year. AJ Dillon's going to be off the team. Taylor and some of the other, third, fourth running backs, they're not that impressive. And Donovan, who's our good friend, he usually comments on stuff. He wasn't defending any of those. He wasn't defending Patrick Taylor. He wasn't defending any of those Green Bay backs. So he knows that Aaron Jones is getting a little long in the tooth. And hell, man, they got to pay Jordan Love soon. If Jordan Love has another year like this, he's going to be making 45, 50 million. So you're going to have to pay him soon. I know a lot of the receivers are cheap and young, and tight ends too. But I just think about a running back's lifespan. And Aaron Jones obviously had a great playoffs, but it was banged up probably half the year last year, honestly. So you can't. I don't think you can fully depend on a full Aaron Jones full slate anymore. I don't think he's a Pro Bowl. He's got Pro Bowl talent, but he's not a Pro Bowl level guy anymore in terms of his season production or an All Pro or anything like that. So I think it'd be a nice succession plan to do one more year of Aaron Jones, and if you take a guy like Jaylen Wright, kind of work him in, and then maybe he can be the feature guy in 2025 in Green Bay. I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we kind of mentioned these before too, as well. It's um, Aaron Jones, Merriweather, Patrick Taylor, Wilson. A lot of these guys, we haven't really seen much from them just because it's been a two-headed monster from, with Aaron Jones
Yeah,
and,
man,
and Dillon and whatnot. So, I mean, he could fill in, take in that, Dillon role if it all came down to it.
I I agree in terms of being like the kind of backup sidekick. I think they'd have to replace the goal line production though. I think if Green Bay went that route, you might want to look at and they had him, before he started making the rounds, with the Saints and Lions, you had Jamal Williams and he was the big bruising, goal line back. So I think they'd have, they might be better off taking two running backs. I mean, Green Bay has, they're pretty much solid from top to bottom. If they wanted to draft two running backs, they probably could and just scrap everything up. Take Braylon Allen, the big bruising Wisconsin running back we've talked about, and then take Jaylen Wright too. Why the hell not? Take one in the third, fourth round, take the other one in the fifth or sixth, So it'll be interesting to see. Number 5, Patriots. I've had them on a couple lists too. I think they were on the list last week with Cody Schrader. Donovan, I am scared for the Packers running back future. I not necessarily. Obviously, Donovan, you love the receivers, you love the tight ends. We talk about some of these guys. I know Christian McCaffrey was a first rounder, Bijan, but a lot of these studs. Aaron Jones, a 5th round pick out of UTEP. You know what I mean? So these guys can come from anywhere. So who's to say this guy couldn't be or have Aaron Jones's level of production? In 2025, for example, like that's totally doable. I wouldn't worry so much. And LaFleur and he knows what he's doing with the offense, so I wouldn't be too overly concerned on that. I put the Patriots at 5. Had them on the list with Cody Schrader last week. Ramondre Stevenson, who big bull. We like him, but he could use some breather. I mean, Zeke's done. I mean, scrap Zeke. If you have any shares of him, in Dynasty, obviously, keep him on the roster, keep him on the bench, redraft year to year. Don't have much use for Zeke going forward. And then further down the depth chart, it is just they're depleted. They're one of the few teams that if you go on like team needs 2024, if you Google that or you go on some of these other platforms, like they're one of the few teams that needs a running back. Like a lot of teams want a running back, like the Chiefs. I saw somewhere where they might take Jaylen Wright in the 7th round. That's just one outlet's example, but just I think it's I'll see if Jay pops back on here. I think he can get some carries here. Ramondre Stevenson now has a track record of being an injured running back that really can't stay healthy anymore. And he's not the Ramondre Stevenson from 2-3 years ago when I thought he was going to hit the ceiling. I thought he had the potential to be a top 5 running back at one point, and that's just not the case. So any thoughts on the Patriots? I know we got into them last week with Cody Schrader, but any thoughts on Jaylen Wright ending up in New England?
We kind of talked about them a little bit, with the Patriots there. I mean, they kind of need some help too as well. I mean, I know they kind of, with Zeke being there and Harris and Hasty. We already talked about Hasty. He with the Jaguar wasn't really, he was kind of crap. He wasn't, he really didn't do a whole lot. Stevenson kind of injured. Hopefully he can come back and be their
Yeah,
main guy
Michael
there.
Hasty. Yep.
Yeah, so hopefully that can, change a lot too as well. And Zeke might not return there. So I mean it's gonna have to kind of change there a little bit. So Receiverson, right, that would be a nice two-headed monster if it all came down to it.
Yeah, I think yeah, dude, they Jaden Daniels, they they take Wright in day whatever we'll see what he does at combine, but maybe third round or day 3 if he ends up in the 5th round like he's projected here. Yeah, I think you can get some value there, and then combine him and Stevenson. Unload some of the carries, and yeah, that's my top 5. And if any of you guys have any thoughts or any additional stuff, just put it in the comments. But these are the 5 teams I think would be the best landing spots. If I had a 6th, I would, like I said, I would go with the Chiefs, because I think you got 2 years into Pacheco. He's like most running backs, like, hey, I was a big cog in 2 world championship teams. I want to get paid. After next year, Pacheco being like, hey, I was 7th round guy. Like, I want some money. Like Jerry Maguire, show me the money. And then you have an easy replacement. You basically have Pacheco part 2. And then you just, it's like, hey, no, we're paying Patrick. We're paying, one of the stud corners they have. Hey, we're paying this guy. We're not going to pay our running back. So, I think that'd be an easy transition, and that would be like my honorable mention would be the Chiefs at 6. Let's see here. Did you have Jay? Did you have any graphic? Did you have a graphic or any stats?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm getting some
For like
some,
his or fantasy value on Jaylen Wright at all from college, or
just I'm getting some weird feedback quick here. Go ahead and just I can you can I can pop up my stuff here, and I think I have to reboot here real quick. So I'm sorry, everybody, if I have to jump out of this real quick. I can bring
Yep.
up you can kind of bring up. I'll pop up the slide here, and then you can kind of talk about that. Just give me a moment. I'll be back here in a moment. There's some odd, weird stuff going on here. Oops. There we go. There we go. But
some
you can answer
spooky
some of these
stuff going
questions.
on.
Yep.
There we All right. Yep, you bet. Yep. If Jay has to step off for a second, I'll man the fort. But I'll answer Josh's comment here. What about the Eagles if they don't re-sign Swift? Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah. I guess I was under the assumption that they would re-sign DeAndre Swift. Seemed to have a good rapport in that offense, and obviously they changed coordinators, and Sirianni, it's up in the air if he knows what he's doing. But I thought DeAndre Swift was one of the bright spots for the Eagles in 2023. I thought they'd try to re-sign him. But yeah, to get younger and cheaper, obviously, because you're paying Jalen Hurts over $50 million a season, and some of the AJ Brown's making a lot of money, and some of the guys on defense. So yeah, I could see the Eagles making a run at him. That might be another sleeper team. Day 3 guy, pop in there. Can't be any worse. Can't be any worse than Miles Sanders. Shane Steichen, that offense turned Miles Sanders into like a Pro Bowl level running back, and we know how pathetic he is, seeing his year in Carolina or how much he's fallen off. So, obviously different coordinator, different system in Philly now, but yeah, I don't mind that one bit. Kind of being either a succession plan to DeAndre Swift and kind of going the route the Rams did. I mean, they got Kyron Williams from Notre Dame in the 6th round, and Kyron Williams turned into an all pro level back this year. Who could have seen that coming? In terms of Jay had the graphic up, and I went over that earlier about Jaylen Wright, how his like I said, he wasn't used a ton. He's listed, quote unquote, as a workhorse running back, but he wasn't, he wasn't treated as such, and I'm fine with that. You're taking hits from the SEC against SEC defenses like Georgia and Alabama, and you go down the list, Ole Miss, like all these heavy hitting teams. You're basically getting hit by NFL level guys like every week. This isn't some D2 FCS stuff. I mean, these are big bruising defensive linemen and linebackers there. So yeah, you see the production. 18 touchdowns in 3 years. It's nothing crazy. But if you look at who my main comp for him, Isaiah Pacheco never had over like 700 something yards at Rutgers. I mean, he was a 4-year guy at Rutgers, never had more than about 750, I think 725, 750 for yardage. So Pacheco's stats didn't jump out, weren't popping off the screen either. There was no 17 touchdown year, 1,600 yards, anything like that, which doesn't mean he can't be a productive back. And he wasn't on anybody's fantasy boards. Like Jay might have a stat like he normally does. Jay might have that, but like he wasn't. Like some of these guys we mentioned, like Cody Schrader, I think he had like 14 touchdowns, so he would have been on a national fantasy list. If you play college fantasy football, he would have been listed somewhere in the top 20 probably. That's not going to be the case with Jaylen Wright. You have 1,013 yards, 4 touchdowns, and only 22 grabs. You're not going to be on anybody's top 25 fantasy college running back list at all. But if you're good on audio, Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, it's we just kind of mentioned him with him actually playing a lot of these. I looked at his game, kind of backtrack here, not like real quick. His game log in 2023. I mean, he put up some monster games against South Carolina. 123 yards, touchdown. Texas A&M in week 6, 136. Then week 7, they played Alabama. He only put up like 22 yards against these guys. And then that following week, Kentucky, Connecticut had a pretty much 100-yard games. And then 1 touchdown in there. He played Mizzou, only 22 yards, so it's not really consistent. But I was kind of looking at his average yards here, 45 yards average in 2021, 72 yards average in 2022, and then 84 yards pretty much per game. So you can kind of get an idea how he kind of progressed each year, got a little bit better. But he played in week 11 Georgia. He played Georgia 90. He played up 90 yards against Georgia. And some of the highlights there, he kind of split some of these defenses and whatnot, and off he went. So he played pretty damn good. So you can kind of see here 12 games, 1,000 yards, 137 carries, about 7 yards per carry. And his average was, for fantasy college wise, 161 yards, or not yards, PPR points there. So in most of your PPR standard. And so I kind of, on that note here, I kind of did some fantasy, kind of compared some of him where his fantasy points were this season, and kind of looked at where he kind of stood with some of the NFL guys here, and I kind of got some highs and lows there on that part. Yeah, Eli, you want to turn your volume down just so, like, maybe just a smudge, because I can hear myself over there.
Is that any better?
Yeah, it probably should be. There we go. Yeah, then some of that feedback probably. Yeah, I can hear that feedback. We're having all kinds of issues tonight.
I'll give you some feedback, big boy.
Oh my God. All right. So to kind of take a look at what Jalen Wright did in these SE conference. Ray Davis, Cody Schrader, Jaquan Judkin, were kind of the top guys here. You can kind of see, even though we kind of talked about what he kind of did, with in the conference itself. Top he was a top 10 guy in the SEE itself, as far as fantasy point wise. And then you can kind of see his fourth in the conference for 1,000 some odd yards. 17th, he didn't really have a whole lot of touchdowns, but 17th in that category. 137 carries, ninth, so not bad at all there. And Eli, he just kind of froze there. It looked like it was kind of funny. And then I know, you kind of comped him to like Isaiah Piaco, for kind of your middle tier, Brees Hall high, and then your Ty Chandler low. Um, I was just kind of trying to think here. Could he be, my thoughts are, could he be a dual threat kind of running back, if he did come to the, into the NFL? And my thoughts were like high, maybe Alvin Kamara. We didn't really see a whole lot from Alvin Kamara when he was at Tennessee, kind of very limited. And then I think maybe his floor could be James Cook from the Bills. Like just because like maybe when he comes in, he won't be that, first guy right away. So I mean, very maybe, very limited and where he falls and what team he falls in. So that would be my kind of, comp to, kind of Jalen Wright's playing style a little bit, because James Cook's, you know, a little bit better route runner than Wright, but I think Wright can actually kind of fall a little bit better into, he can get better progressive over the season wise.
Yeah, no, I like. Yeah, I was gonna comment quick, Jay. I I knew he was further down on the fantasy list, but 71st. And then yeah, you're bringing up some of the games against some of the powerhouse in the SEC this year. Georgia, we saw the stats there. Actually, had a decent game against Georgia, I should say. Alabama, didn't do much anything, but did catch 7 balls, 44 yards. Obviously, from an elite level talent, you'd like more. You would have liked, to rip off, maybe a 50-yard run or something, or have 20 carries, 130 yards, a touchdown, maybe a couple catches. You'd like that kind of stat line against a team like Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, like the heavy hitters in the SEC. But yeah, no, damn, I didn't know he was that far down the list. I was just estimating like he wasn't in the top, 25, or, I thought maybe top 50, but 71st. Yikes.
Yeah. Yeah, just looking at it, I was just like, with seeing what he was doing, I was like, there's no way his fantasy points can't be that bad or that low. And I was just like, no way, dude. I mean, with his skill set and everything like that, I would have thought that he would have been way totally better than what he put out and what he was showing to us, and it's just like you can see his skill set, when he's running through a lot of these tackles, especially in the open field. I mean, he actually, if there's a nice open line there, I mean, he can break out. I mean, he can, make defenders miss. He's, for those 10, 15-yard chunk plays. So, and that's the thing that's, it can be deceiving. It's just like, why didn't he see so much production? And I was trying to look back and like, why only 4 touchdowns? I mean, it looked like Tennessee was throwing a little bit more to their wide receivers. They had 3 wide receivers there. I mean, 6, 5, and 4 some odd touchdowns in the receiving game there. So I'm just like, dude, I didn't think, Tennessee was that bad. I was just like, they were ranked for a little while anyways, and I was just trying to think of why wasn't he, his touchdowns up a little bit more than normal, you know? So, you would think, if he was that much involved, you would see maybe 6 touchdowns at least or 7, in the rushing game anyways, but I didn't see a whole lot of that.
Yeah, and yeah, they took a step back, and it doesn't make sense because you had a third round drafted quarterback. You had Hendon Hooker, you had Hyatt, you had Tillman. I mean, you two more third round. Yeah, basically, yeah, 3 third round guys that in last year's NFL draft from the offense. So you'd assume, oh, let's go run heavy. We lost. You still had Joe Milton, the quarterback, but like, hey, let's we lost a lot of our studs, lost a lot of our firepower. Well, yeah, it just wasn't the case. Four touchdowns, like I said, that does nothing for anybody. But I'm not as concerned because, like I said, I used Isaiah Pacheco. You had obviously, James Cook is the floor, and I forget who he had. I forget who he had as the ceiling, but
Yeah.
yeah, but like I said, Pacheco didn't stat wise didn't do much of anything in college. I mean, nothing notable, and kind of came out of nowhere the 7th round. He was pretty far down on the list. When you look at draft buzz for ranked running backs from 2 years ago, like Pacheco was pretty far down the list. So he kind of came out of nowhere to do what he's done. So, yeah, stats don't overly concern me. But yeah, obviously, if you played college football or fantasy last year, you would have liked a lot more than 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns, and nothing through the air. He didn't catch any receiving touchdowns, and so kind of. Where's
I
that?
think
Where's
he
that?
had I think
Price is Right sound effect. Eh.
I think he had 1 touchdown in receiving game. I think there was 1, I think there was when I was looking, but um, far as, like, what I've seen is that, running through the tackles and he can bounce off players for nice chunk yards, you know he's got these little when it does come, he's good in that short dump off, for a quarterback, which is nice for him. But then his footwork is good too as well because then he can actually, he can change direction real quick. If the hole ends up being gone, he can go the other way. So he's a little bit patient, but he hits the hole pretty damn quick too as well, which a lot of NFL guys, teams would like, a guy just hitting that hole right away and busting through as quick as they can. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of some of the things that I seen far as him, good footwork. He can pretty much, at the line, he can actually go the opposite way, if the opening does vanish. I mean, other than that, he's got a knack for finding these running lanes, which is what we want in a running back. And it may be possible, maybe another landing spot, maybe Dallas, because Dallas needs another running back, and maybe if he falls a little bit, maybe we can get him in the second or third round. And I would love to see him in Dallas.
That hey man, that get rid of Tony Pollard. This clown wants too much money. Okay, you ain't getting paid, boy. You ain't getting paid. Zeke hit the bricks. Tony Pollard's gonna hit the bricks. I like Rico Dowdle. That's another. You guys are coming up with a bunch of good stuff tonight. Eagles, Cowboys, Lions, Bears, Tigers. Oh my.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff. Yeah, Rico Dowdle, I like there. Deuce Vaughn as kind of a poor man's Darren Sproles, undersized guy that can, do a little bit of everything. I think you rolled with a Jaylen Wright who's cheap labor. Get him, steal him in the draft later on. Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, kind of roll with those kind of guys, and maybe sign a veteran too. If Derrick Henry is willing to take less. Like, hey, come play for a contender, Derek. We can get you deep in. We're finally gonna make a deep playoff run this year with Dak and the boys. So, and I know you're a Cowboys fan, obviously, and I think I considered them. I mean, he was one of I kind of combed through Eagles. I didn't think about, but the Cowboys I did. Cowboys I was thinking about putting it at like number 4 or 5. So they did cross my mind when I was coming up with these teams. But I like the Dallas idea a lot too. I like what they
Yeah.
got going on there, and obviously the offensive line is always good, so he'd be working behind that.
And I was just kind of taking some of his stats from what he did this year, and I was kind of taking some of the 2023 stats from the NFL, and kind of a fantasy outlook. If he actually with his 161 fantasy points, he would have been at least a top 40 running back with what he did this year, and he would have been around like guys like Antonio Gibson, Perine, Aaron Jones, Alexander Madison, Tyler Algier. So I mean, he would have been kind of falling in these categories of where some of those running backs were. And then kind of the rush game with his 1,000 some odd yards, he would have been at least 11th best in with the NFL. Pollard right at 12 and Brees Hall right at 13th. So he would have been just right a little bit better than Tony Pollard this year.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of these guys that I'm Tony Pollard, Austin Eckler, shot. A lot of these guys can be replaced. I mean, there's it shows. I think Doug Gottlieb and a couple of the Fox Sports people and some of the volume people, Colin Cowherd's channel, like they were talking about that running backs. Their demand. Basically it's falling on deaf ears, all their demands, and like, hey, we want 14, 15 million, or we want long-term deals, or hey, you ain't getting nothing. Okay. Not when you got cheap, stud labor like this coming in. And we haven't even gotten to probably the best running back coming out, Trey Benson. We've kind of stayed away from him and kind of done some of the deeper cuts. And Ray Davis is up next. Obviously you could see him on the fantasy list there. But yeah, we've done a lot of the deeper cuts. But yeah, there's a lot of cheap guys coming in, and if you running backs, you're a lot of these guys are interchangeable. Like it's almost becoming like kickers, Jay, where it's like you have maybe 7-8 guys that are, hey, these are workhorse, these are studs, these are definite starters, workhorse, bulk of the carry kind of guys, salt of the earth kind of guys, and then everybody else, the other 20, 25 guys are interchangeable. Just based on the matchup, who's healthy, what point in the season. So yeah, it's I could go on a whole rant about Tony Pollard. Get him out of here. Get these clowns that want to, no, you ain't getting paid, dude. Josh Jacobs, you ain't getting paid long term. Saquon, you ain't getting paid long term. Yeah, they act like Saquon Barkley's, like he's doing the world a favor. It's like, dude, he's going into his 7th year. Who wants a injury-riddled 7th-year running back when you can get Jaylen Wright? Probably it'd be interesting to see where he goes, but like probably the 5th round. Jay thinks higher, maybe 3rd round. Some places have it 7th. So I'm gonna go in the middle here. I'm gonna take the mid. For the 5th round, you get a guy like Jaylen Wright to come in day one and doesn't have a lot of beating on his body.
Yeah, for sure.
Running back. Why all these demands? I need like a separate. Sorry to flip out here, but these damn running backs and their demands. I just hate it.
Yeah, it is. Some people say Barkley might be going to Dallas. It's just like, it's hard to hear. It's hard saying. It's all hearsay right now until we finally until the free agency actually opens up.
Oh no. Ugh.
Yeah, I know we haven't. I know there's.
Please,
we haven't
no,
really.
No, not when you got Bucky. You got Bucky coming in, Trey Benson.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really covered like a lot of top guys. I mean, like you like mentioned, but Trey Benson, that Lloyd guy from USC. I know he's kind of high up there. We haven't dug into them. I mean, I heard he's
Marshawn Lloyd, USC. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I heard he might be good and bad too. So mixed feelings on those. And there was I can't remember the other guy, but we haven't we haven't dug into them yet to get a real like. We dug into Blake Corum. He's up there. I kind of like Blake Corum a little bit more than maybe I haven't so into Trey Benson and all those other guys. So maybe eventually we'll get to those, and we'll have an opinion on finally like our top 5 the top 5s that are kind of projected. We can kind of say, well, I like this guy better or that guy better. But yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, my you know what? Case closed. My thoughts on this matter. I got my little gavel here. You guys remember this from the fall when we were doing waiver specials? I said adjourned. And now uh you have any thoughts before we end this bad boy? I wipe my hands clean of this.
Yeah, I mean, we had some audio well, I mean, I had some weird feedback. Eli's gotta get a new computer. Hopefully that comes this weekend because then he won't be lagging as bad, I won't have to
Yeah.
drag him
Yeah.
along like a little kitten. Um, and then, yeah, other than that, I think everything should be good. Next week, Wednesday, we'll get Ray Davis up and into the books, cover him, talk about him, and see what our thoughts and we are our thoughts on him. Eli will have his 5 teams like normal. We'll jump into that. I'll have the fantasy outlook too on that as well. And yeah, hopefully next week Eli will have a computer and we won't have any of these issues.
We good to go here. Donovan, my thoughts. Donovan, where were you at? You had 50 minutes to give your thoughts. Go Pack, go. Yeah, there you go. There you go. It's go Pack, go. How about them Cowboys? Hook 'em horns. Lots of catchphrases here. But yeah, no, it was a good stream. You can go back and watch any of the previous stuff, listen to any of the previous stuff, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, Google, all those good platforms, Discord. Uh, go
And
over and conversate. It's kind of like Messenger for fantasy people. So, uh, good place to.
yeah. Yep, he's kind of freezing over there for sure. All right, guys. I think that kind of covers everything. Well, so stay tuned for next week. We'll cover Ray Davis. Same time next Wednesday. Um, me and Donovan might try to do some baseball content. I know him and I are in a TGB FI draft right now over in the NFBC site. So maybe we'll try to jump in with some of that baseball content over there as well. Not quite sure yet. But yeah, other than that, we appreciate everybody that jumped in the chat with us, joined us, some nice conversations there. But yeah, other than that, guys, we will see you guys next time from Out of Rhythm. I'm Jamie. That's Eli. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. We are up out of here. See you later.